I should have known something was off the moment I saw Jenna's car parked outside our house. Derek often worked late, but Jenna's presence at our family gathering felt jarring, like a misplaced puzzle piece. As I stepped through the front door, the sounds of laughter and conversation quickly died down, replaced by an eerie silence that sent a chill down my spine. "What's going on here?" I asked, my voice laced with unease. Derek and Jenna exchanged a weighted glance, their faces tense with a mix of guilt and something else. Defiance, perhaps. My gaze shifted to my mother-in-law, Lois, whose lips curled into a smug smile, as if she had been anticipating this moment. "Elena, dear, why don't you have a seat?" Lois said, her tone dripping with feigned concern. "Derek and Jenna have something they'd like to tell you." I obliged, perching on the edge of the sofa, my heart pounding in my ears. The silence was deafening, the air thick with unspoken secrets. Just when I thought I couldn't bear the tension any longer, Derek cleared his throat. "Elena, Jenna and I, he paused, his eyes downcast. "We're in love, and Jenna is pregnant." The words hit me like a truck, knocking the air from my lungs. For a moment I was frozen, unable to process the sheer magnitude of his betrayal. How could the man I loved, the one I had built a life with, do this to me? To us? "No, this can't be real," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Derek, how could you?" Jenna, her hand resting protectively on her stomach, spoke up, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Elena. It just happened. We never meant to hurt you." I scoffed, my disbelief quickly morphing into rage. "You never meant to hurt me? Do you have any idea how much this hurts?" I turned to Derek, my eyes burning with betrayal. "And you, how long has this been going on?" Derek averted his gaze, unable to meet my accusatory stare. "I'm sorry, Elena. It's been a few months." Lois, who had been observing the exchange with an unsettling sense of satisfaction, finally spoke up. "Oh, come now, Elena. Don't be so dramatic. This is a blessing in disguise. You and Derek have never been able to give me grandchildren, and now Jenna can provide that for our family." I felt as if the ground had been ripped out from under me. How could my own mother-in-law, the woman I had trusted and respected, betray me like this? The realization that they had all been complicit in this twisted game of deceit sent a wave of nausea through me. Blessing in disguise? I spat, my voice dripping with contempt. "This is a betrayal, pure and simple. I won't be a part of this, any of it." With that, I rose from the sofa, my legs trembling beneath me. I couldn't bear to be in the same room with them a moment longer. As I headed for the door, I heard Jenna's voice, laced with a hint of triumph. "Where are you going, Elena? This is your home, too." I paused, my hand on the doorknob, and turned to face them, my chin held high. "Not anymore." As I stepped out into the cool evening air, my body was numb, my mind reeling from the bombshell that had just shattered my world. The betrayal stung like 1,000 tiny needles, each one a painful reminder of the life I had once cherished. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. I couldn't bear to be in the same house as Derek, Jenna, and Lois. Their smug expressions burned into my memory. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my car keys, the weight of their disloyalty crushing me. I drove aimlessly, my vision blurred by tears. The familiar streets of our neighborhood transformed into an endless maze, a physical manifestation of the chaos that consumed me. Eventually, I found myself pulling into my parents' driveway, the only place that still felt like home. As I stepped through the front door, my mother rushed to my side, her eyes filled with concern. "Elena, sweetheart, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft and soothing. I collapsed into her embrace, the floodgates finally opening. "Mom, it's all gone," I choked out between sobs. "Derek and Jenna, they're having an affair, and Lois, she's—" My mother's expression shifted from concern to one of pure outrage. "Those heartless, manipulative—" She paused, taking a deep breath to compose herself. "Oh, my poor girl, I can't even imagine the pain you must be feeling." My father, who had been sitting quietly in the living room, rose from his chair and wrapped his strong arms around me. "You're safe here, Elena," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "We'll get through this together, as a family." I clung to them, drawing strength from their unwavering support. In that moment, I knew that I had made the right decision in coming here, away from the toxic environment that had once been my home. The next few days were a blur of tears, phone calls, and hushed conversations. My parents, appalled by the betrayal, offered me their unconditional love and support. They encouraged me to take time to process my emotions, to grieve the loss of my marriage and the friendships I had once cherished. But as the initial shock began to wear off, a new emotion began to take root within me: determination. I couldn't simply sit back and let Derek, Jenna, and Lois get away with their despicable actions. They had shattered my world, and I refused to let them win. One evening, as I sat with my parents sipping a warm cup of tea, I spoke up, my voice steady and resolute. "I'm not going back. Not to that house or that life. I'm going to start over, and I'm going to make them pay for what they've done." My father looked at me with a mixture of pride and concern. "What do you mean, Alina? What are you planning to do?" I met his gaze, a spark of defiance burning in my eyes. "I'm going to destroy them, piece by piece, just like they destroyed me. They're going to pay for their betrayal, and I'm going to make sure they never forget it." My mother reached across the table, grasping my hand in hers. "Are you sure, sweetheart? Revenge can be a dangerous path." I nodded, my resolve unwavering. "I'm sure, Mom. This is the only way I can move on, the only way I can reclaim my life, and I won't rest until they've paid the price for their cruelty." With those words, I set in motion a plan that would forever change the course of all our lives. The days that followed my departure from the family home were a whirlwind of change and uncertainty. But as I settled back into the familiar surroundings of my childhood, a newfound sense of purpose began to take root within me. My parents welcomed me with open arms, their unwavering support a balm for my wounded soul. They listened patiently as I recounted the gut-wrenching details of Derek's betrayal, their expressions growing darker with each revelation. "That viper, Jenna, and that wretched Lois, how could they do this to you?" My father fumed, his fists clenched in anger. My mother, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, pulled me into a tight embrace. "Oh, my sweet girl, you don't deserve any of this, but we're here for you, always." Their words, laced with love and compassion, reminded me that I was not alone in this fight. With their help, I began to rebuild the shattered pieces of my life, one step at a time. I found a job at a local nonprofit organization, using my skills to make a tangible difference in the lives of those around me. The work was challenging, but it provided a much-needed distraction, a chance to focus on something other than the pain that still lingered in my heart. As the weeks turned into months, I felt a newfound sense of purpose and strength. The once suffocating weight of my marriage had been lifted, and I could breathe freely again. But even as I moved forward, the desire for revenge still burned within me, a slow, simmering flame that I knew I would eventually have to stoke. One evening, as I sat with my parents over a home-cooked meal, my father broached the subject that had been weighing heavily on all our minds. "Have you given any more thought to what you're going to do about Derek and that woman?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. I nodded, setting down my fork and taking a deep breath. "Yes, I have. And I've decided that I'm not going to let them get away with this. They need to pay for what they've done." My mother reached across the table, grasping my hand in hers. "Sweetheart, I know you're hurting, but revenge isn't the answer. It won't heal the wounds they've inflicted." I squeezed her hand reassuringly, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "I know, Mom, but I can't just sit back and let them live happily ever after. They've destroyed my life, and I need to find a way to make them pay for it." My father leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "What did you have in mind, Elena?" I met his gaze, a spark of determination igniting in my eyes. "I'm going to start by spreading the truth about their affair. Slowly and subtly. I'm going to make sure that everyone in our community knows what they've done, and I'm going to watch as their lives crumble around them." My parents exchanged a worried look, but they knew there was no dissuading me. I had made up my mind, and I was ready to take the first steps towards my own form of justice. As I lay in bed that night, the gears in my mind already turning, I knew that this was just the beginning. Derek, Jenna, and Lois had no idea what was in store for them, and I couldn't wait to see the look on their faces when the weight of their actions finally caught up with them. As the months passed, I settled into my new life in my hometown, finding comfort and solace in the familiar surroundings. While the pain of Derek's betrayal still lingered, a renewed sense of purpose had taken hold, fueling my determination to make him and Jenna pay for their deceit. I began my plan of subtle vengeance, leveraging my connections and the power of social media to slowly sow the seeds of doubt within our community. Through casual conversations and carefully crafted posts, I ensured that whispers of Derek and Jenna's affair began to circulate, reaching the ears of those who had once envied our seemingly perfect life. One afternoon, as I sipped my coffee at the local cafe, I overheard a group of my former friends discussing the latest rumors. "Did you hear about Derek and Jenna?" One of them, a former colleague of Derek's, murmured in a conspiratorial tone. "Apparently, they've been having an affair for months." Another woman, whose daughter had once been close to Jenna, shook her head in disbelief. "It's just unbelievable. I always thought they were such a perfect couple. And poor Elena, I can't even imagine what she must be going through." I fought to suppress a satisfied smile as I listened to their conversation, the weight of their words a testament to the effectiveness of my plan. With each passing day, more and more people became aware of the sordid details, their shock and disapproval slowly chipping away at the facade Derek and Jenna had worked so hard to maintain. As the rumor mill churned, I kept a low profile, content to watch the drama unfold from a distance. But I couldn't resist the occasional nudge, dropping subtle hints and carefully crafted comments that would further sow the seeds of doubt. One evening, as I scrolled through my social media feed, I came across a post from Jenna, a thinly veiled attempt to present their relationship as a grand, romantic love story. Without hesitation, I replied, my words dripping with feigned sympathy. "Jenna, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult this must be for you and Derek. I hope you both find the strength to navigate this challenging situation. My thoughts are with you." Within moments, the comment section erupted in a flurry of reactions, some expressing their support for Jenna and Derek, while others questioned the veracity of their claims. "Isn't Elena your best friend, Jenna? How could you do this to her?" one commenter wrote, their outrage palpable. Another chimed in, "I always thought there was something off about your relationship with Derek. This is just so sad." I leaned back in my chair, a small smile playing on my lips. The trap was set, and the bait had been taken. Now it was only a matter of time before the full weight of their actions came crashing down upon them. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew louder, and the cracks in Derek and Jenna's carefully constructed facade began to widen. I watched from afar, my heart swelling with a twisted sense of satisfaction, knowing that my plan was unfolding precisely as I had envisioned. The stage was set, and the curtain was about to fall on their world. Derek, Jenna, and even Lois, they would all soon learn the true cost of their betrayal. As the whispers of Derek and Jenna's affair continued to spread through our community, I watched from the sidelines, careful not to draw too much attention to my involvement. I knew that the true power of my revenge lay in the gradual unraveling of their carefully constructed lives, each thread pulled delicately but with unwavering determination. Through my network of contacts, I began to gather information about the state of Derek's business. It didn't take long for the details to emerge. Poorly made investments, dwindling profits, and Jenna's extravagant spending habits had all taken a toll on the once thriving enterprise. I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction as I learned of their financial woes. The lavish home they had shared, the one that had always been a source of envy, was now a suffocating chain around their necks, a constant reminder of the life they had risked everything to obtain. One day, as I sipped my coffee at the local cafe, I overheard a conversation that would prove to be the key to tightening the noose around their necks. "Did you hear? Derek's company is in serious trouble. Apparently, they're on the verge of losing their home," a woman who I recognized as the wife of one of Derek's former business partners whispered to her companion. "Good Lord, that's awful," the other woman replied, her tone dripping with a hint of schadenfreude. "I always thought that house of theirs was a bit over the top. Looks like karma's come back to bite them." I couldn't resist the urge to interject, my voice laced with feigned concern. "Oh, that's simply dreadful. Derek and Jenna have been through so much already. I hope they're able to get their finances in order." The two women eyed me warily, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Was I truly oblivious to the details of their betrayal? Well, you know what they say, the first woman replied, her gaze narrowing. You reap what you sow. I nodded solemnly, my mind already racing with a plan to capitalize on this new development. Indeed, I do hope they're able to weather this storm. As I left the cafe, a sense of determination coursed through my veins. I knew exactly what I had to do. Using the information I had gathered, I discreetly reached out to a trusted real estate agent, one who owed me a favor. Together, we devised a plan to acquire the mortgage on Derek and Jenna's home, slowly tightening the noose around their necks. It was a delicate operation, requiring the utmost discretion and careful maneuvering. But as the weeks passed, I watched with a sense of grim satisfaction as the financial pressure mounted on the once golden couple. Derek's business continued to struggle, and Jenna's extravagant spending only exacerbated the problem. The once lavish lifestyle they had grown accustomed to became a constant source of stress and anxiety, as the threat of losing their home loomed ever closer. I knew that the time was ripe for the final act of my revenge. With the mortgage firmly under my control, I held the power to strip them of their last remaining symbol of success, forcing them to confront the consequences of their betrayal. The anticipation of their downfall was palpable, a dark and twisted thrill that coursed through my veins. Derek, Jenna, and even Lois, they would all soon learn the true cost of their actions, and I would be there to witness their undoing, every step of the way. As the financial pressure mounted on Derek and Jenna, I observed the slow unraveling of their lives with a grim sense of satisfaction. The once pristine facade they had so carefully constructed now crumbled before their eyes, the cracks in their carefully curated image growing wider with each passing day. Through my network of contacts, I kept a close eye on their struggles, learning of the public disputes and the loss of social standing that had become the hallmarks of their downfall. The whispers that had once filled the air now transformed into outright condemnation as their community turned its back on the once celebrated couple. One particularly heated exchange, which had taken place in a local restaurant, reached my ears through the grapevine. According to the sources, Derek and Jenna had been engaged in a heated argument, voices raised and tempers flaring as they discussed the imminent threat of losing their home. "This is all your fault, Jenna," Derek had shouted, his face contorted with a mix of anger and despair. "If you hadn't insisted on that ridiculous remodel, we wouldn't be in this mess." Jenna, her eyes narrowed in defiance, had shot back. "Don't you dare try to pin this on me, Derek. If you had just listened to my business advice instead of wasting money on those failed investments, we wouldn't be in this predicament." I could almost picture the scene unfolding, the once confident pair reduced to bickering like children, their pride and arrogance shattered by the weight of their mistakes. As the news of their public display spread, I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. The seeds I had so carefully planted were now bearing fruit, and the reckoning they had so desperately tried to avoid was fast approaching. But the true catalyst for their undoing came in the form of an unexpected ally, Lois, Derek's own mother. It seemed that the once steadfast supporter of their relationship had finally seen the error of her ways. Disillusioned by Jenna's extravagant behavior and Derek's financial failures, Lois had begun to distance herself from the couple, her regret and remorse palpable. One day, as I was grocery shopping, I encountered Lois in the aisle, her eyes red-rimmed and her expression heavy with sorrow. "Elena," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm so sorry. What we did to you, it was unforgivable. I was blinded by my own desires, and I never once stopped to consider the pain we were causing you." I paused, momentarily caught off guard by her unexpected remorse. "Lois, She raised a hand, silencing me. "No, please, let me finish. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I regret my actions every single day. Seeing Derek and Jenna crumble under the weight of their mistakes has been a harsh lesson, and I only wish I had opened my eyes sooner." I stood there, speechless, as Lois's words sank in. The once formidable matriarch had been humbled, her pride and arrogance replaced by a profound sense of guilt and shame. In that moment I knew that the time had come to deliver the final blow. The stage was set, and the players were in place. Derek, Jenna, and Lois. They would soon face the consequences of their actions, and I would be there to witness their reckoning. As the financial pressure on Derek and Jenna continued to mount, their relationship began to crumble under the weight of their mistakes. Accusations flew, and their once loving partnership descended into a bitter war of words and recriminations. I watched from the sidelines, a silent observer to their downfall. As they lashed out at one another, their pride and arrogance reduced to nothing. The lavish home they had once treasured had become a prison, a constant reminder of the life they had risked everything to attain. And then there was Lois. Once the staunchest supporter of their relationship, she had become disillusioned, her regret and shame palpable. Abandoned by the very people she had once championed, Lois had reached out to me, her voice trembling with emotion. "Elena, I need to talk to you. Please, can we meet?" She had pleaded, her usual commanding presence replaced by a fragility I had never seen in her before. Reluctantly, I agreed, knowing that this confrontation had been inevitable. As I stepped into the familiar surroundings of my parents' home, Lois sat across from me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Elena, I don't know how to begin," she said, her eyes downcast. "I've made such a terrible mistake, and I've hurt you in ways I can never make up for." I remained silent, allowing her to continue, my heart hardened against the remorse that now seemed to consume her. When Derek and Jenna first told me about their affair, I was thrilled. I thought it would finally give me the grandchild I had always wanted, and I was so blinded by that desire that I never once considered the pain it would cause you. Lois paused, a single tear trailing down her cheek. "I was a fool, Elena, a selfish, cruel fool. And now I've lost everything, my son, my grandson, and the respect of my own family." I felt a twinge of pity in my heart, but I quickly pushed it aside, unwilling to let her off the hook so easily. "And what do you expect me to do about that, Lois?" I asked, my voice steady. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "I don't know, Elena. I don't know what to do. All I know is that I've lost everything, and I have no one left to turn to. I was hoping that maybe you could find it in your heart to forgive me." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the past. I could see the genuine remorse in Lois's eyes, but the memory of her cruelty and betrayal was still too fresh to ignore. "Forgive you?" I scoffed, my voice laced with bitterness. "After everything you've done, you expect me to just forgive you?" Lois flinched, her expression crumbling. I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you, Elena. Please, help me. I have no one else." I sat in silence, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Part of me wanted to turn her away, to let her suffer the consequences of her actions. But another part, the part that still yearned for the family I had once had, couldn't ignore the anguish in her eyes. Finally, I sighed, my resolve softening ever so slightly. "I can't promise you forgiveness, Lois, but I'll listen. Tell me what you need." A glimmer of hope flickered in Lois's gaze, and she began to speak, her words tumbling out in a desperate rush. As I listened, I knew that this encounter would forever change the course of our lives. As I sat across from Lois, her anguished plea for help hanging in the air between us, I knew that the time had come to deliver the final blow. The carefully laid plans I had set in motion over the past months were about to come to fruition, and Derek, Jenna, and Lois were about to face the consequences of their actions. "Lois," I began, my voice steady and resolute, "I'll help you, but on one condition. You need to be here with Derek and Jenna when I reveal the truth." Lois's eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing her features. "The truth? What are you talking about, Elena?" I leaned forward, my gaze unwavering. "The truth about what really happened to Derek's business, the truth about the mortgage on their home, and the truth about my role in all of this." Lois's face paled, the realization of what I was suggesting dawning on her. You were behind all of this? But how?" I held up a hand, silencing her. "I'll explain everything, but I want Derek and Jenna here as well. This is a reckoning they all need to face." Lois hesitated, the weight of my words clearly unsettling her. "Elena, I don't know if I can do that. Facing them, after everything?" I reached across the table, grasping her hand in mine. "Lois, this is the only way. You need to be here, to see the truth for yourself, and they need to understand the full extent of the pain they've caused." Lois's expression hardened, a newfound resolve burning in her eyes. All right, Elena, I'll do it. I owe you that much, at the very least. Within the hour, Lois had arranged for Derek and Jenna to meet us at my parents' home. As they stepped through the door, their expressions a mix of confusion and trepidation, I knew that the moment of truth had arrived. "What's going on, Lois?" Derek asked, his gaze shifting between his mother and me. "Why did you bring us here?" Lois took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly. "Derek, Jenna, Elena has something she needs to tell us all." I rose from my seat, my chin held high, and faced the trio, the weight of my revelations heavy on my tongue. "Derek, Jenna, I know the truth about your affair and the downfall of your business, and I know the truth about the mortgage on your home." Jenna's eyes widened, a flicker of panic flashing across her features. "What are you talking about, Elena? What have you done?" I held up a hand, silencing her. "I'm the one who bought the mortgage on your house, Jenna. I'm the one who orchestrated the slow unraveling of your lives, piece by piece." Derek's expression morphed from confusion to disbelief, his voice barely above a whisper. You did this?" I nodded, my gaze unwavering. "Yes, Derek, I did this. I watched as the rumors I planted spread through our community, tarnishing your reputation. I watched as your business crumbled, and I made sure that the mortgage on your home became an insurmountable burden." Jenna erupted, her voice shrill with anger. "How dare you, Elena? How dare you ruin our lives like this? We were supposed to be happy, to have the life we deserved." I scoffed, my contempt for her clear. "The life you deserved? You betrayed me, Jenna. You betrayed our friendship, and you betrayed our family. And you, Derek, you threw away everything we had built together, all for the sake of your own selfish desires." Lois, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke up, her voice laced with regret. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I should have never supported this. I should have seen the truth." I turned to Lois, a hint of sympathy in my gaze. "I know, Lois, and that's why you're here, to see the full extent of the damage you've all caused." The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Derek and Jenna stood, speechless, their faces etched with a mixture of defeat and disbelief. "It's over," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "You've lost everything, and you have no one to blame but yourselves." With those final words, I turned and walked out the door, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions. It was a bittersweet victory, but one that brought me a sense of closure and the knowledge that karma had finally caught up with them. As I stepped into the cool evening air, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but I knew that I had reclaimed my life, and that was all that mattered.